The cry for help. The scientific research station, beacon of knowledge, floated peacefully in the Epsilon Nebula, its blue lights twinkling like stars against the cosmic dust clouds. For 3 years, the station had been home to 500 of the galaxy's brightest minds from the Zentari Coalition, all working together to unlock the mysteries of dark energy. Dr. Kira Neth stood in the main observatory, her silver skin shimmering as she watched the beautiful nebula swirl around their home. The Zentari were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful scholars. Their tall, graceful bodies and large eyes had evolved for studying ancient texts and complex calculations, not for fighting. They had built their civilization on knowledge, art, and cooperation. War was something they read about in history books, not something they ever expected to face. That peaceful morning shattered when the proximity alarms began screaming throughout the station. Kira rushed to the command center where her assistant, Engineer Torv, was frantically checking the sensor displays. His normally calm demeanor had vanished, replaced by pure terror. "Dr. Neth, we have incoming vessels," Torv reported, his voice trembling. 12 ships, all bearing the markings of the Crimson Horde. Kira's heart sank. Every civilized being in the galaxy knew about the Crimson Horde. They were brutal pirates who traveled in massive fleets, attacking peaceful settlements and research stations. Led by the notorious warlord Kraxus, they showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. Their red and black ships were feared throughout the Outer Rim territories. The first blast hit the station's outer ring, sending violent tremors through the entire structure. Emergency lights began flashing as the station's defensive shields activated, but Kira knew they wouldn't hold for long. The beacon of knowledge had been built for research, HFY, but warfare. Their shields were designed to protect against cosmic radiation and space debris, not military-grade plasma cannons. "All personnel to emergency stations," Kira announced over the station's communication system. "This is not a drill. We are under attack by hostile forces. Families with young ones, proceed to the central core where the shielding is strongest." Through the main viewport, Kira could see the Crimson Horde fleet approaching like a pack of hungry predators. Their ships were covered in battle scars and painted with terrifying symbols. The largest vessel, a massive dreadnought called Blood Harvester, belonged to warlord Kraxus himself. The second wave of attacks came minutes later, more powerful than the first. The station's lights flickered as power systems struggled to maintain both life support and defensive shields. Kira realized they had perhaps an hour before their defenses failed completely. "Send out emergency broadcasts on all frequencies," she ordered Torv. "Tell the galaxy that the beacon of knowledge is under attack. Request immediate military assistance from any civilization willing to help." Torv's fingers danced across the communication controls as he began broadcasting their desperate plea for help. The message traveled through space, bouncing between communication relays and reaching the homeworlds of dozens of different species. The Altarian Empire received the distress call first. Their military council met in emergency session, but their nearest fleet was 6 days away. By the time they could arrive, the research station would be nothing but floating debris. The hegemony of worlds also heard the broadcast, but their parliament was locked in debate about territorial boundaries. Sending ships to help would require a formal vote that could take weeks. One by one, the great civilizations of the galaxy found reasons why they didn't immediately respond to the crisis. Political complications, territorial disputes, and bureaucratic procedures all combined to ensure that no help would arrive in time. But the message also reached a species that most of the galaxy still considered newcomers. Humans had only joined the galactic community 25 years ago, after finally developing faster-than-light travel. Their homeworld, Earth, was classified as a death world by most galactic standards. It was a planet where massive predators hunted smaller creatures, where natural disasters regularly reshaped entire continents, and where the dominant species had spent most of their history fighting each other. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, the flagship of humanity's third exploration fleet. He was a battle-tested officer who had served in Earth's final World War before humanity had united and reached for the stars. His weathered face showed the lines of someone who had seen both the worst and best that people could do to each other. The human fleet consisted of 6 vessels, all designed with the practical efficiency that humans brought to everything they built. Unlike the artistic curves of Centauri ships or the intimidating bulk of other military vessels, human ships looked like tools built for a job. They were tough, adaptable, and ready for anything space could throw at them. "Captain, we're receiving a distress call," reported Lieutenant Sarah Chen from the communications station. "It's coming from a research station in the Epsilon Nebula. They say they're under attack by pirates." Morrison studied the message transcript on his command screen. The beacon of knowledge was 3 hours away at maximum speed, and the attackers were identified as the Crimson Horde. Every human officer on the bridge knew that name. The Crimson Horde had attacked 2 human colonies in the past year, killing hundreds of innocent people before Earth's military could respond. "Sir, should we contact Earth Command for orders?" asked Commander Elena Vasquez, his tactical officer. "This could be considered interfering in galactic politics." Morrison looked around at his crew. He saw the faces of men and women who had grown up on a world where people helped each other during disasters, where strangers would risk their lives to save others from burning buildings or sinking ships. The idea of abandoning innocent people because of political considerations went against everything they believed in. "No," Morrison said firmly. "We're not going to wait for permission to do what's right. All ships, prepare for immediate departure. Set course for the beacon of knowledge at maximum speed." The human fleet turned toward the nebula, their engines pushing past normal operational limits. In the engine rooms of all 6 ships, human engineers worked frantically to squeeze every bit of speed from their vessels. They knew that every minute could mean the difference between saving lives and arriving too late. As they raced through space, Morrison opened communication channels with the research station. Dr. Kira Neth's face appeared on his screen, her large eyes filled with hope and desperation. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force," he said. "We received your distress call and are en route to your position. What's your current status?" Kira could hardly believe what she was seeing. Humans were still considered mysterious newcomers by most of the galaxy. Their reputation as Deathworlders made many species nervous. But right now, she didn't care if they had 3 heads and breathed fire. They were coming to help. "Captain Morrison, our shields are failing," she reported. "The Crimson Horde has us surrounded. We estimate 30 minutes before they breach our defenses and begin boarding operations." Morrison's face hardened. The Crimson Horde was notorious for what they did to prisoners. Scientists and researchers were often sold into SLA. While anyone who resisted was killed as an example to others. "Doctor, we'll be there in 2 hours and 40 minutes, Morrison said. "I need you to buy us time. Do you have any defensive capabilities at all?" Kira shook her head. "We're a research station, Captain. We have basic shields and some mining tools, but nothing that could be considered a weapon." Morrison thought quickly, his mind working through possibilities that most galactic citizens would never consider. On Earth, humans had learned to fight with whatever was available, turning everyday tools into instruments of survival. "Doctor, you said you have mining equipment. Do you have any explosive charges for breaking up asteroids? Any high-pressure systems? Industrial fabricators?" Kira looked puzzled but checked with Torv, who was monitoring their industrial systems. "Yes, we have mining charges and high-pressure water systems for cleaning equipment. We also have fabrication units for building new station components." "Good," Morrison said with grim satisfaction. "I'm sending you some technical specifications. Your people might not be soldiers, but you're scientists. You can figure out how to make this work." Over the next hour, as the human fleet raced toward the nebula, Morrison and his crew walked the Centauri researchers through rapidly converting their peaceful equipment into improvised defensive systems. Mining charges became proximity mines. High-pressure water systems became kinetic weapons. Industrial fabricators began producing simple projectile launchers. The Centauri scientists threw themselves into the project with desperate enthusiasm. They might not be warriors, but they were brilliant problem solvers. Under Torv's coordination, teams throughout the station began building devices that would have horrified their peaceful ancestors. Meanwhile, the Crimson Horde continued their methodical attack on the station's defenses. Warlord Craxus stood in the command center of the Blood Harvester, watching his prey slowly weaken. The massive alien was covered in battle armor decorated with the bones of his enemies. His species, the Vorthak, had conquered a dozen worlds through superior firepower and ruthless tactics. "Sir, the research station's shields are down to 15%, reported his weapons officer. Their defensive systems will collapse within 20 minutes. Craxus nodded approvingly. Another easy victory for the Crimson Horde. The Zentari researchers would provide excellent slaves for the mining worlds, and their advanced technology would bring high prices on the black market. "Prepare boarding parties," Craxus commanded. "I want half of them taken alive for the slave markets. Kill the rest as examples." But as his ships moved in for the final assault, something unexpected happened. The research station began fighting back. The first surprise came when several of his smaller ships triggered proximity mines that hadn't been there an hour ago. The explosions damaged their hulls and forced them to pull back for repairs. Then high-velocity projectiles began shooting out from various points on the station, hitting his ships with surprising accuracy. "What are they doing?" Craxus demanded. "This is a research station, not a military base." His tactical officer studied the incoming fire patterns with growing confusion. "Sir, they appear to be using improvised weapons. These aren't standard military systems. It looks like they've converted their industrial equipment into makeshift defensive installations." Craxus snarled in frustration. This was supposed to be an easy raid, not a prolonged battle, but the delay was only temporary. The research station's improvised defenses were clever, but they wouldn't be enough to stop his fleet indefinitely. What Craxus didn't know was that the brave resistance of the Zentari scientists, TS, had bought exactly the time they needed. As the station's defenses began to fail for the second time, 6 human ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Epsilon Nebula. Captain Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the battle in progress. 12 large pirate ships surrounded the research station, which was now firing back with improvised weapons. He felt a surge of pride in the Zentari scientists who had found the courage to fight, despite having no military training. "All ships battle stations," Morrison commanded. "We're going in fast and hard. Remember, our job is to protect those civilians, not to play fair with pirates." The 6 human vessels accelerated toward the battle zone, their crews preparing for the kind of fight that most galactic civilizations tried to avoid. But humans had grown up on a world where survival meant adapting quickly to any threat, and they were about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could accomplish when innocent people needed protection. As the human fleet approached the battle, every person aboard knew they were outnumbered 2-to-1 by experienced pirates flying larger ships. But they also knew something that Warlord Craxus was about to learn the hard way. Humans didn't fight the way other species fought. They had learned their tactics in the jungles of Earth, in urban warfare, and in the depths of space where every advantage mattered. The real battle was about to begin. Deathworlders unleashed. The Crimson Horde first noticed the incoming human ships when they were still 20 minutes away from the battle zone. Warlord Craxus studied the sensor readings with mild interest, assuming these were reinforcements from one of the galactic governments who had finally decided to interfere with his operations. "Sir, 6 unknown vessels approaching at high speed," his sensor operator reported. "They're broadcasting identification signals as Earth Defense Force." Craxus had heard rumors about humans, the newest species to join galactic civilization. They came from what the galaxy classified as a death world, but that didn't impress him much. The Vorthak themselves had evolved on a harsh planet, and it had made them strong enough to conquer dozens of other worlds. If these humans wanted to challenge the Crimson Horde, they would learn the same lesson as countless others. "How many ships?" Craxus asked, not particularly concerned. 6 vessels, sir. Much smaller than our dreadnoughts." Craxus laughed, a sound that echoed menacingly through his command center. 6 small ships against his fleet of 12 battle-tested vessels. This would be over quickly, and then he could return to harvesting the research station. "Deploy 3 ships to deal with the newcomers," he commanded. The rest of you continue the assault on the station. I want those scientists ready for transport within the hour." But as the human ships drew closer, something unusual happened. Instead of approaching in a standard formation, they scattered in 6 different directions, using the nebula's dense gas clouds as cover. This wasn't the behavior Craxus expected from any civilized military force. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, studying the tactical situation. The research station was barely holding together, its improvised defenses finally failing under the concentrated assault of 9 pirate ships. 3 Crimson Horde vessels were moving to intercept his fleet, confident in their superior size and firepower. "Elena, what's your assessment?" Morrison asked his tactical officer. Commander Vasquez had been analyzing the pirate ships since they arrived. Their vessels are heavily armed, but built for intimidation and overwhelming firepower. They're not designed for high-speed maneuvering or coordinated tactics. They fight like bullies, sir. All brute force and no finesse. Morrison nodded. He had served in enough conflicts to recognize the type. The Crimson Horde had probab. Lai never faced an enemy that didn't follow standard galactic military doctrines. "All ships, implement Pattern Delta," Morrison commanded. "Remember, we're not here to play by their rules. We're here to save those civilians." The human fleet split into 3 pairs, each duo taking a different approach to the battle zone. The UES Defiant and UES Resilient moved directly toward the 3 intercepting pirate ships, while the other 4 vessels used the nebula's gas clouds to mask their approach to the research station. The first exchange of fire came when the lead Crimson Horde ship, a heavy cruiser called Bone Crusher, launched a volley of plasma torpedoes at the Defiant. The human ship didn't try to absorb the impact on its shields like most galactic vessels would. Instead, Morrison ordered a sharp roll to port, letting the torpedoes pass harmlessly by, while his ship returned fire with kinetic projectiles. The tungsten rods fired by human railguns moved at incredible velocity, punching through the pirate ship's shields and armor like they were made of paper. The Bone Crusher's captain had never faced kinetic weapons moving at such speeds. His shields were designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb explosive impacts, not to stop solid projectiles traveling at significant fractions of light speed. "What kind of weapons are those?" demanded the Bone Crusher's weapons officer, as alerts screamed throughout his ship. Before anyone could answer, the UES Resilient attacked from a completely different angle, its missiles weaving through space in patterns that defied the pirates' point defense systems. Human missiles didn't fly in straight lines like most galactic weapons. They used artificial intelligence to coordinate their approach, working together to overwhelm defensive systems through sheer unpredictability. The second pirate ship, Iron Fang, tried to target both human vessels, but found itself unable to track their erratic movements. Humans fogged in 3 dimensions, treating space like an ocean where attacks could come from any direction. They rolled, dived, and corkscrewed through the battle zone while maintaining devastating, accurate fire on their targets. "Sir, the human ships are using impossible tactics," reported the Iron Fang's tactical officer. "They're not following any known combat doctrine." That was exactly the problem. The Crimson Horde had built their reputation fighting against civilized species that followed established rules of engagement. They expected formal battles with predictable formations and standardized weapons. The humans ignored all of these conventions and focused purely on destroying the enemy as efficiently as possible. Meanwhile, the other 4 human ships had reached the research station using the nebula as cover. The UES Ranger and UES Pathfinder engaged the pirates attacking the station's main docking bay, while the UES Guardian and UES Sentinel moved to protect the civilian evacuation shuttles that Dr. Kira Neth was desperately trying to launch. The battle around the research station turned into chaos as human ships wove between the massive pirate vessels, striking at their weak points with surgical precision. The humans had studied every piece of intelligence about Crimson Horde ships they could find, identifying vulnerabilities that other species had never thought to exploit. "Target their sensor arrays," Commander Vasquez transmitted to all human ships. "Blind them first, then go for their engines." The human vessels worked together with coordination that amazed even Dr. Kira Neth, who watched the battle from the station's command center. The 6 ships moved like they were parts of a single organism, each one supporting the others while maintaining devastating pressure on the pirates. Warlord Craxus realized his easy victory was turning into a nightmare. 3 of his ships were already crippled, their crews struggling to maintain basic life support. The humans fought with a vicious efficiency that he had never encountered in hundreds of battles. "All ships, concentrate fire on the largest human vessel," Craxus commanded from his dreadnought. If he could destroy their flagship, perhaps the others would retreat. But the Blood Harvester's massive plasma cannons found empty space where the UES Defiant had been just moments before. Captain Morrison had anticipated the attack and moved his ship behind a cloud of metallic debris from a destroyed pirate vessel, using it as cover while he repositioned for another strike. "Sir, we can't get a clean shot," reported his weapons officer. "They're using the battlefield debris as camouflage." Craxus snarled in frustration. This was supposed to be a simple raid against defenseless scientists, not a complex battle against an enemy that seemed to anticipate his every move. The turning point came when Dr. Kira Neth made a decision that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. Instead of just trying to evacuate her people, she offered to help the human ships by providing them with detailed sensor data about the Crimson Horde formation. "Captain Morrison, this is Dr. Neth. Our research equipment includes some of the most advanced sensors in the galaxy. We can give you precise targeting information for every pirate ship." Morrison's face lit up with appreciation. "Doctor, that would be extremely helpful. Can you identify their command ship?" "The largest vessel, the Blood Harvester, belongs to Warlord Craxus himself. It's positioned at the center of their formation, protected by his escort ships." Morrison immediately saw the opportunity. If they could disable or destroy the command ship, the rest of the pirate fleet would likely scatter. But reaching Craxus would require a coordinated attack by all 6 human vessels. "All ships, new target priority," Morrison transmitted. "We're going after their warlord, Pattern Omega. Execute on my mark." Pattern Omega was a maneuver that and naval forces had developed during the final World War on Earth. It involved all ships in a fleet converging on a single target from multiple directions simultaneously, creating a crossfire that was almost impossible to defend against. The 6 human ships suddenly changed their attack patterns, breaking off from their individual engagements and racing toward the Blood Harvester from 6 different vectors. The move was so unexpected that several pirate ships were caught completely off guard, unable to reposition quickly enough to protect their flagship. Warlord Craxus watched in growing alarm as the human vessels approached his dreadnought, like a pack of wolves closing in for the kill. His escort ships tried to intercept them, but the humans' erratic flight patterns made targeting almost impossible. "All weapons, fire at will," Craxus commanded. "Stop those ships before they reach us." The Blood Harvester's massive gun batteries opened up, filling space with plasma bolts and explosive shells. But the human ships danced between the incoming fire, their pilots using every trick they had learned in Earth's dangerous skies and hostile environments. The first human ship to reach effective range was the UES Sentinel, piloted by Commander Lisa Zhang, a veteran of Earth's asteroid mining conflicts. She brought her vessel in so close to the Blood Harvester that the pirates couldn't depress their main guns low enough to target her. Her railguns fired continuously, punching holes in the dreadnought's armored hull, while her missiles sought out weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported the Blood Harvester's damage control officer. "We're losing atmosphere in multiple sections." Before Craxus could respond, the other 5 human ships arrived from their different vectors, each one attacking a different part of his massive ship. The coordinated assault was unlike anything in his experience. Most galactic military forces attacked in formation, making it possible to concentrate defensive fire. The humans attacked as individuals while maintaining perfect coordination, creating multiple threats that his crew couldn't handle simultaneously. The UES Defiant's final attack run took Morrison's ship directly over the Blood Harvester's command tower, where Warlord Craxus stood watching his empire crumble. The human captain had loaded his railguns with special penetrator rounds designed to punch through the heaviest armor. The tungsten core projectiles smashed through the dreadnought's bridge shields and hull plating, sending devastating shock waves through the command center. Emergency lights flickered as the bridge lost main power, and Craxus found himself thrown to the deck by the impact. "Sir, all primary systems are down," his tactical officer reported, blood streaming from a head wound. "Engineering reports massive damage throughout the ship. We're dead in space." Craxus struggled to his feet, his pride warring with his survival instincts. The blood harvester was crippled, 3 of his other ships were destroyed, and the rest of his fleet was scattered and demoralized. For the first time in his career, he was facing total defeat. "Signal all ships," he commanded reluctantly. "Emergency retreat. Abandon the operation." As the surviving Crimson Horde vessels limped away into hyperspace, Captain Morrison received a transmission from the research station. Dr. Kira Neth's face appeared on his screen, her large eyes bright with tears of gratitude. "Captain Morrison, how can we ever thank you? You saved all of our lives." Morrison smiled, feeling the satisfaction that came from a job well done. "Doctor, you and your people showed incredible courage. The way you fought back with improvised weapons bought us the time we needed to reach you." The aftermath of the battle revealed the full extent of human effectiveness in combat. The Crimson Horde had lost 4 ships completely destroyed and 3 more crippled beyond immediate repair. The human fleet had suffered only minor damage, mostly to outer hull plating and non-essential systems. But more importantly, the battle had saved 500 innocent lives and sent a message throughout the galaxy. The mysterious humans from the Deathworld called Earth were not just another civilized species seeking peaceful coexistence. They were protectors who would fight for those who couldn't defend themselves, using tactics and strategies that no other species had ever imagined. As news of the battle spread through galactic communication networks, civilizations throughout the galaxy began to reassess their understanding of humanity. These newcomers from Earth brought more than just advanced technology and scientific knowledge. They brought the hardened instincts of survivors who had learned to thrive on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. The research station, Beacon of Knowledge, was repaired and rebuilt, becoming a symbol of cooperation between humans and the wider galactic community. Dr. Kira Neth and her team continued their important work, now protected by a joint defense agreement that included Earth's growing space fleet. Captain Morrison and his crew returned to their patrol duties, but their names were remembered throughout the galaxy as the humans who had shown that sometimes the right thing to do was also the most dangerous thing to do. They had proven that being from a death world didn't just make humans tough. It made them the kind of people who would charge into impossible odds to protect innocent strangers.